Okay, we're holding a sefer, yeah? So the Rebbe spoke till now that you have two madrigas in air. There's etzem air, which in Yana is an air which is sasum be'etzem. It's higher than the gather of gili. Then there's an air which in Yana is gili. The poil it's makif and it's be'en arech like the mekabel, but in Yana is gili. And sof kol sof, it's nimshach okay. What the Rebbe spoke till now is that the Friedrich calls this air, which is etzem air, which in Yana is that it's sasum be'etzem, it's be'etzem higher than Geder Agili, higher than Geder Ametzias. The Friedrich calls it makif harachik. So makif harachik means that even the way it is batzmiusay, it has ashpa on the mekabel. On one end we're saying that it's rachik. Rachik means that it has no shayches klal to the tachtin. If it had a shayches, then that's already Makav HaKoreh, but the Masbik ben Rotzen is also Makav that has a Shaykhis. Makav HaRochik, there's no Shaykhis at all. And Adrab, there is Meirach look at the Torah that the definition of Makav HaRochik is, of Rotzen, Li Rotzen, is that it's the Etzim the way it is Batzmi Yosef. If you're going to say Makav HaRochik is higher than Makav HaKoreh, but it has a Yachas, a higher level of Yachas, then it's not Makav the Makav. Then it's not Raiva the Koraiva. The Alter Rebbe says the Makav of Bayis, which is Makav HaRochik, the Alter Rebbe Mizmeshach Bayis, that in what's the Ilui of Raiva the Koraiva over Rotzin, the Raiva the Koraiva is not the way the Elyon is Mesiachis to the Tachta, which that's why the Gav the Dag of Raiva the Koraiva is no Metzias, not even a Metzias Sabbata. Mitzad Rotzin is a Metzias Sabbata. Mash'ekin Vud Dixchais Raiva the Koraiva in Shikha. That there's the Rotzin, the only thing is Rotzin Elyon, and Eber Vil Vertase. So Santa Shad the Makav HaRochik is that it's a higher Darga than Makav HaKoraiva. So a Edel Ariachas. If it's a Hecher Darga, so it's already not Raiva the Koraiva. The Alter Rebbe is what's the pshat makav harachik? What's the dogma bayis? That there's a darga in rotzin which is not the way the Elyon is in giving this in a smokim or giving a tzivit to the tacht. Is the way Elyon is batzmusa. So there's no form of any yachas. So the way it is betzim. So an alpha begins doctrine that's makif. What's the pshat makif? That the bayis is making even though it's like not. So here we're not saying that the Rab is mamshech this inyan to the makabel to the Talmud. Nish begin the metzah. We're talking about, and what's that? What type of hagana does the bayis give? The Rebbe's Meirach over here is that a person has his needs, care, v'cheim, or does levushim. In order for the levushim to be v'izdav to zayin, you have to have the makav of bayis. So it's the retzach nishda that. So what's the navayid? In order for the levushim, for the ma'aseh mitzvahs, and for a person, even the Muslim and the levushim should be v'izdav to zayin. Should be dikas hachitzeinim. It should be api derech hayosher. For that, it has to be connected to the etzem. So that when you say that the makif is poil, the makif is not poil that the makif should be nirgash. We're not dealing at the etzim should be nirgash. We're dealing that there should be a hagana to the inyanim gluyim on their terms. But in order for the inyanim gluyim to be mugan, that from to the makif harachik is making. So we're not dealing with the etzim being nimsha. The etzim bleibt bin kaimim. And wie der etzim is bin kaimim is a poil. And not only from Goli, the Rebbe is Meirach Habir. So that's in the marshal. The Rebbe fears if he goes in fears. The Rebbe fears is that there's what the Rav gives. There's what the Rav what's then there's what the Rav doesn't give. What the Talmud is never going to understand, and that also has ashpa. The Yarm which the Rav doesn't give, kfi shehem ba'Rav has ashpa on the Talmud. What's ashpa that the Rebbe doesn't touch choice? But the Rebbe brings from one place in Chassidus that there's the riyas pnei Rav is poil that there shouldn't be a mistake or there shouldn't be to usim in the avanas hasech. That's the angel. Is to get the Rebbe read not zweite zah. Now that I'm saying that there's which that Friedrich speaks in the Hemshich by Riches if the Zayin that this Inyan Atzmi, this Makif Hasosum, this Inyan Hasosum, there's a way that the Rav is Mamshech Megalit, not Megalit, the way the Rav is Mamshech it, that it comes to the Gili, let's say. Nish that's the blind, the Rav, there's the way these Inyanim are Nimshach. There's Nish does to get that free, and the way they're Nimshach is Neif and Sosum. Mamshach by Maamar Shaskol is Eilu. He brings another dugman. That's the Rebbe says in the Maamar is, and now he brings a dugman seichel. Okay, so there is seichel which is there is seichel that's the seichel is which in a way that it's like a yonam amukim, but with the head emek. You can be margish is fana emek in the yonam. Then there's seichel which are b'chinas makif harach. Shouldn't we get the gidli klal? What's the dugman that he brings out derech? Let me present the Friedrich Rebbe's lashon for a minute. Just to have the Inyanim clear. And I think it's good to see the Friedrich Rebbe's lashon, then we'll see how the Rebbe touches it up. We saw this inside. We didn't see this inside yet. Just read this. With us. Chemi Shloime this inner is margish yesh b'zeh imek gadol. The inner idea ma'o imek the margish shushi yesh b'zeh imek inyan. So in amako afshin idea so come after the resh. He means margish it. So it's b'chinas kiruv. Mash chazman kashi yischakem yamid gamol imek. Okay, and that's margiv der yosh. Hakam shu b'chinas margiv come b'chinas margiv kodesh v'kiruv derapim. Efes katzei arim is galav gam helam yovel digil. Yeah, I mean the Rebbe is married before margiv kodesh, but he brings before the mashal of Rav Talmud says that's margiv kodesh which it's kodesh that a one dol b'nishach v'pnimius. But here's already this type of makif, lab dafke is minish chapnimis. It's beget regular. Lab dafke is going to be okay. Aval seichel shu amik beyeser, hainu shu nelam be'ez. Means it's higher than it's higher than get the mitzias b'chlal. We'll see. Gam efes katzeu einim is gal. K'mei chochma shleim. Avai nas chochma shleim kasher dibrei. So what's the special nesina that Avai gives shleim? And it's nidin le'adei al yenim mamish mashalmad beget the asagis and so the gabi and Ephraim, the inyanim of chochma shleim are higher than get the mitzias. It's not the pshat that it's a very tiffer seichel within the misgeres of the Metzias and Ephraim. It's an in which the Gabi Metzias and Ephraim, this inyan doesn't exist. A higher the Geder and Metzias Legani. So the Gabi Geder and Ephraim, there's no dimyon, it's not considered a Metzias the Gabi Geder and Ephraim. So that's a dogma from Makif, which in Yonei it's not the Geder and Metzias. But the Chachma of Shloime, it's not the Geder and Metzias. That it's inyan sasum lifnei tzimtzum. But Legabi Hasagas and Ephraim, it's an inyan which is not the Geder HaMetzias Legabi and Ephraim. So these inyanim, Gam Evans Katzeyanim is Galo. Ulo Elam Level de Gili Mamish. So Hina Askalis Elu, it's in a regular form of Gili Kanazim Shlan Kommen. What does it mean Gili Mamish? They're never going to come that these inyanim are going to be, say, open, a regular way something is open. You see, someone understands a svara. So now this svara is clear to him. It's open to him. He has proof for it. He could explain it. He could describe it. In that form of gili, it's never going to come. So Azaz Sart Inyan, which in the regular terms of his galus and openness, Azaz Sart Svar Vertishlam Kommen. There's a way that it's nimshach, but not in a eifin gili, in a different eif. There's a way that you can access this Inyan, and this Kinyan could be nimshach b'makim hamakabel, but not in a regular way of gili. Let's get up touch. Skolis elu boyim ade levushim hamalim mastirim. Was war even kommen die sichlim darf get levushim hamalim mastirim. Kemea meshalim bechilas. Shebehem hari ini nire v'nika shesh lemem chachma v'seichel. What's the being matgisher? Usually when you say the musik of a mashal means that you find the same concept, you find an example for this concept. You say the example the Gemara brings. You want to say there's a halacha of alecha charev. The Gemara brings an example: 10 stores, 9 sell kosher, 8 of fakir treif. Found a piece of meat, so you go basarev. That's a mashal. It's a ma'aseh to bring out the concept, but it's a mashal which you get. There's a isdamus between the story to the concept you want to bring out. You want to bring out the concept that you go after the reiv, and that concept is expressed in this story. So it's not a mashal that you can't tell in the mashal its relevance to the inyan. There's the concept, and then there's the way the concept is expressed through a story. So that type of mashal is not the mashal that he's speaking about over here. That's not a mashal that you can't tell in the mashal it's dimying to the nimshal. Avade hast einer was versteht bechal nicht. He hears a story, he's not chapping the pratim that there's 9 of this and 1 of that. But so he's not chapping what's being said over here. If you think I was saying that azah in yinsas, the type of mashal is that in the mashal that he says you cannot tell. Not only cannot tell because your eye doesn't see it. Bechitzainis and begoli, there's no connection between the mashal to the inyan to the seichel asas. There's no dimmi. It brings me to get the sipori atayla. Elakus achmat yishten shlak nishbar. The Eibush is chal. The Eibush is er. And then there's a story that Avram, 11 brothers were jealous of another brother and they threw him into the pit. What's connection between this story and uvda that happened to achmat shlak nishbar? It's not only that you can't tell the dimmi. Mitzad regular gedarim, mitzad gedarim of mitzias, mitzad the regular definitions. There is no connection at all between the mashal, the story, and the inyan that's being expressed in the story. Shlak and dimmi. So over dafke and them gets chareis a seichel which is higher than Geder Agil, which is beyond. Speaking of the Chachma Shleimel mashal, which is higher than Geder Asagas and Ephraim. Sazasert inyan, which in Ephraim nishta za inyan. There's no such a Geder Mitzias in Ephraim, a different type of Mitzias altogether. So it's considered that it's another sort in Ephraim. How is it going to be expressed within the world of Ephraim? He's going to say a mashal which you can't see any remnants, no dimin to the mashal and the nimshal. Und darf gen aza Eifen gets charis the minion. Which is going to say, was for Eifen gets charis the minion. But it's not going to be a regular way of expression of the Indian, the way Inyanim Gloim expressed. But that in such a Eifen you can access the Indian. That's the erste Sache. He says, what's the word? So here the Lashon is, you can't tell that there's Chacham v'Seichel. But if someone says the mashal of the Teish Chanuyis, Eser Chanuyis, so there is a certain concept. In that story that we can't find a piece of meat, and since 9 are kosher, we go after the 9, there's this story brings out a certain message. We're saying if someone says a story, you cannot tell any mashal. The figure is the Maamar. What's the concept? What's the message? Stama is a fact. Stama a reality, not a concept. And Dafken Azam Mashal, Dorten gets charis in the Seichel Atzmi. You have to see the Hezbollah. That's what he's saying. But I'm shalom atzmar in Seichel Bachach. The Noch sagt Lechem is Sipuri Maise Shibetayra Yeshon Sedes Verozen Yiloin Harbe Yesem Rekwem B'Dinatayra. It's a different. So Dinat Chochmas Atayra Halachis. So you see that they're in Yonim which express a lukus. Chochmas Shakadish Baruch was expressed in the emek of Chochmas Hagemara. So Sazasart Levush which express the Gidre Halavush express the Malubish. You see in the Pratim of the Levush you see the Malubish. They're kalim to the Malubish. Mashenkin the Inyanim Baseret Chochma Shloime the Prati Advarim Basarzak or the Sipuri Shivotayra don't express anything. Mitzat Chitzenis. These Inyanim don't express anything. But that can say haltzach on the pnimis. The Seichel Achad.
What does tefillin express?
You're saying mitzvahs tefillin, but the halachas of tefillin, there's a chachma. First of all, we're dealing with Ratzon. We're speaking about what the Eibishter wants, and you're speaking about different prati dinim in Ratzon. Then there's the chachma which exists in the prati shakatari mitzvahs tefillin. So you can tell that it's chachma like this. It's chachma zersen shakadish baruch. Mashikin Sipuri Master Shibetayra is and Dafkin Sipuri Master Shibetayra the Seder Dach Eloin Harbe Yesem Rekem B'Dinater. Harbe Yesem means much more than Dinater. Aval in the Nikah Klal. Why? Vishe Etzem Ha'er who said Sasum. If anybody de Gilui Raka de Hesna Behelim. That means an Eir Galui. The way a Mekabel is going to get this Eir is also going to be through methods of Gilui, which he's going to explain. Mashikin Ha'er Sasum Kum Tareis Navek Van Hala Hesna Behelim. What's the pshat? Hainu. Etzem ha'er hu nivdal. He's be'etzem removed from mitzias, from tzir, or from mitzias. Ulazes gam ha'eskal shalei b'chinas avdali b'es amos be'etzem. Vermachtarim. Kol in yoni ba'avdali b'es amos. So let's see. This is the lashon video. Let's see what the Rebbe says here. We'll see first the guf advarim. We'll go through the whole thing, also the marshal of Baal Shem Tov, then we'll try to talk enough for better bring it in. He says, "V'ini b'zedini yesh seichos efshel asbir lazulas." Kasher azulas ukoti mena b'avana v'asaka az yizaku kularichas abir b'ribi eisis. V'aderech achilish min lashon ha'mishnah lashon ha'gemara. Shkol inyan ha'gemara menumazim b'mishnah, but the mishnah is then b'lashon ksar kivesh eisudaitem rechava. La'achis b'zman ha'gemara yitzerech b'arichas advarim. So you need to explain it more. So the it's a seichel just begetter biur. You see, it says yesh seichel efshel asbir lazulas. But if the zulas is, so it's a seichel just begetter hasbar. It could be expressed. It could be explained. It could be brought out in tzir and mitzias. If someone's lower, so you have to bring it closer to him. Nachamash, zweiter mash. But he can explain it. Mashein kin doret an anders. When yesh seichel shemitzad atzmi usasim b'yesir. Means it's not an inyan which is shaychus to gilui. Shalchin games galusay be'efan shal stimus. Aderech stimid the chol stimid. Hainu sheini bali de gila der chaves abir v'ribi b'yurim kima de mishalim v'chidus. What's the word of the mashal v'chida? She'einam bir inyan zegufa b'yesra chav. That's kamish. V'darge tachteni yeser. That's the Rebbe is being shelled with the regular musik of a mashal. It's not in that way. Ki im shabir ba ay de inyan chitzeni legamri. Mashal ma de verdei mechulu. Rak shal yodei aber durch jener zach ich chelim lavi lavana sein. What's the beer? Das sagt der erste Sache. This is this prat ich verstehe was ist ich kashe tig mal as seichel as a lim maspik. I mean there's darkness in yonim stumin, there's also darkness. So kashe tig mal as seichel as a lim maspik mashal echet bez vigil mashal and serach berim mashal. Shzo mishvach shloime melach shnemer be da beshteish zlof mashal. Behind him said em sichli hutzrach leshteish zlof mashal. Shal dafka yodem yuchal azul as the Kaplan. It's a different beer than what's explained. A lot of the Alter explains into the air in the Shlish Love Mashal, because you have to be mamshech lower, dargis, lamatim. You say when do you need a mashal? If the concept, the tach, the makabel, the Talmud is not a kedi for the concept, it's to tell him a story. So his world is a world of stories, and you have to bring out the concept through a story. Shloime Melech was 3,000 dargis beyond where it had to be mazbeh. Here the Rebbe is saying, you have to be mabashit more and more in Inyanim Chitzeni, in Alamis Vestevim. More and more in Inyanim of Stimos, in order to Zozcharis Gem in the Gufeini. Dafka, Yodam Yuchal Zuz the Kabbalah Sim. Shin Kasha Sechel, Ini Amokokach. Okay. V'zau Gam Kin, V'zau Gam In Sipurim Hasi Shubeter. She Bechitzeni Yusam, Him Sipur, in Bechitzeni, it's not Bechitzeni, you don't real. Mitzad Gdorim, when it's a Sipur, Kamei Moshel. So what's that Gosh that the Rebbe is saying here? It's not the Masber, this Indian, the Lashon of the Maamar, it's a strong Lashon. Not the Masber, this Indian more. Just the Lashon here. Just a minute, just one Lashon. Legani. Not this Indian gufa, your masber more. Through Ina Chitzeni Legani. Means an Indian which has no his damas l'chora today. Okay. Let me say the Moshe from the Baal Shem Tov, and then we'll go back to this. V'yuven api Maamar Baal Shem Tov. Shuva b'kesser Shem Tov, v'digel is Sipurim Shebetera. What's the Rebbe's lashon? V'yuven. What's the lashon as it starts?
Was der Mitte von ihr verstehen?
Der Mit. Let me say the lashon with V'yuven api. Because der Mit will nicht verstehen the Baal Shem Tov. Okay, let me say. So dort bringt der Baal Shem Tov a mashal benegel is Sipurim Shebetera. Sagt er, mashal mashal benegel lemachak. Let's listen to this mashal. Kennen a bissel zen from the It says mashal mashal benegel lemachak. Why did the Melech send the son away far? The Melech, that when the kid goes far, and then he comes back, the Melech is going to have Shalei Be'erach, a higher time, when the kid stays by him. And it's kind of way. That's the way the Rebbe touches it. It's not a foolish that the Tanakh is but that's the Rebbe, that the Melech is going to have more time when he goes in the Marchakim and he comes back. What happened was, Beis Hayomim, Nishkach mi ben HaMelech, Kol Tanugi HaMelech, so they went to the Merchakim, and he started getting used to this totally different way of life. Forgot the whole form of the style of life, the way it is by Ovid HaMelech, and B'meila, he became accustomed to a new style of life. And he lost his whole interest in the Melech. Nish to the Sir in the Melech. V'shal ha'achra v'lei rotz alam sir alav. Nish gavot sur That means, he wasn't interested in the way of life of Meluch anymore. His left and under certain. He didn't want. He totally was not interested in the king and whatever has to do with the king. He knew like he wanted, let's say, a private citizen's life or live in his little daldamis in his little high school, a home melucha, but they got nicht went into the city at all. Melucha. Now, what's the answer? So the kid likes started liking the peasant style of life. You sit and I don't know exactly what not the melucha, the royal style life, the peasant style life. So then so instead of he didn't show himself he's a minister of the king, which appreciates malchus, it's like he's also a peasant, zwischen peasants, and he started speaking his language. When Isaiah there's to Bislach brought him back to the Melech. It means he became his friend. He liked the type of peasant things. He lived that style of life and became his friend. And Azay Veshivi Elov. So that's the marshal the Abisha sends in the Shama Lamata. And the Shama Lamata Guf and the Shama was Gate Zervai. Not interested in a Lukus at all. Anything that reminds him of the Abisha, he's not interested in that. So Vivet Ben En Tzirik bring in Telukus, connect even such a person which is so far from a Telukus. So that's Tzipuri Atei. So we're Slapshus Atei B'Tzipurim Gashmi. What's the marshal? Was that the Rebbe say? But in him is the Hine had Tainuk Shlam Melech Yeshne Gam Kashav Bnei Yechidim to Smichas. But Shosene Shlam Melech Shiele Yeser Tainuk. In Yitzer Nasa De Zeh Shal Achri. How is he going to have Yeser Tainuk? That Dafka when he was detached, he comes back. In Yitzer Nasa De Zeh Shal Achri Shalach Esel Merchakim V'Chulu Haru Chezel Avad Yishnik Tzvolosh. Let's put that there. I'm not about. What's that the pshat? let's stay in this mashal. A child, she was growing up by the Melech. He grows up with the whole Ginuni Amalchus, the ganze Zach. Then he gets used to a different type of life, and he loses his full interest in Avim. He's enjoying peasant style life, a different type of life at all. How is this? Anybody that comes and tells him that and starts representing Melucha in Yonim, he doesn't want to hear about Melucha in Yonim. This Tsar was a scarif to him and spoke to him in his language. So how is he a scarif? That even through you could be a peasant and peasant musagim, and even that he'll bring him back to the Melech. So the Nekuda is, say in the Nimshal, the Inyan that the Rebbe speaks in other places. This Nekuda, you say that there's a world or a yid that's very far, and you want to connect him to Lukus. So if a Lukus has a certain seer, if Dvekus the Lukus means it has a seer of davening and learning this seer or that seer, so yid that has no shaykhs to that seer. Doesn't know what davening is. His musagim are eating and drinking. He has no musagim of davening and learning. So there's no way for him to connect to Lukus. If a Lukus is connected to a certain seer, and being connected to Lukus means that you're in a form of bittul, or a form of this, or a form of that, then this person is a different type of form. He's not interested in bittul, he's interested in the happy-go-lucky life. Mash'enkin, if a Lukus is beyond any seer, then it's able to come in every seer. And mitzad every tzir, this truth could come out. The fact that the Eibishter is true doesn't mean some tzir. That's who is a keli for it, or who could express it. Dafka metzias, which in Yoni is bittul, could express it. Or Elokus's truth is nothing to do with this tzir or that tzir. Seinin amiti, which is beyond the tzir. So even through the musagim of a peasant, and even through the musagim of Welt, Elokus is emes mitzadatzmi. Since the emes of Elokus is not bound, is not built mitzad any tzir, it's beyond any tzir. But mele kenes hareis kumen mitzad every matzah could come out as true. If I state the meaning, you say the simple thing that Chassidus brings. The point is, the more something is more atzmistic Indian, you don't need. It's not built on gdorim chitzayim, and you don't need. Saying there's a regular kesher between two people. So it's based on because he appreciates the other person, he appreciates his seichel, appreciates his midas, and there's certain he has to spend time with him. He doesn't spend time with him for 1,000 years, so the kesher is going to be nifsa. But saying the kesher of Abel Ben, the child has to be similar to the father. When the child is similar to the father, the kesher atzi between Abel Ben. The kesher, the lechatchila one. They don't need to have these. You don't have to spend time with the father in order to feed the Abel. The Av is from a different place. It's an Av. It's an Izain Zach. It's an Izain Zach, so you don't have to. It doesn't need G'darim Chitzayim. The more deeper and the more true an Indian is, so it's not based on the fact that it doesn't need that the tzir should be that way in order to justify its being. Its truth is invested in itself. It is a davar amiti, not based on tzir. So if it's not vu and vu brings chareis the amiti sadavar. That even a tzir hafchi is dodamini. So you say b'pashas, where is it brought out the kesher of Avu Ben? Even a son that's not like the father, a son that has also the tata versteht the verkehrt. Ava v'kein, there's an ava. So that you can't explain this ava mitzad chitzaynistic reasons because the mitzias, because their mitzias go together. The mitzias don't go together because their kesher is beyond mitzias in that suit. It's a kasher atzmi. It's not built from the fact that the realities meet together. It's much deeper than that. But mainly, even if it's expressed in the fact that even the realities don't go together, the kasher is there. See, the shaila is the marshal, the melech wants to see when's the tainik. The Rebbe says tainik. I'm saying the marshal and pashto. The melech will then that the child's tesher to melucha should be his mahos. Not only there's uvgahad of it. In Beis HaMalchus, so that's the form of life, that should be his tzir. That's the form of life that he's used to. That should be his pnimis, that should be his mahos. His mahos, does get done, a person could behave and put himself there, he could behave like a balchai, sebaitish sein mahos pnimis. If you behave for a long time, like something, you can become that way. But your pnimis and mahos does bistu. It's not going to change. By chitzenis doesn't change the Indian amiti, which is emes mitzadatzmi. It's not based on Metzias, and it's not going to be weakened if you take away the Metzias. So the Melech will the Inyan HaMalchus to bring out that the Inyan HaMelucha, that's the kid's Nekuda, that's his Pnimius. We breaking the Sarei is that his connection to Melucha is not mitzad the fact that his Tzir is Melucha. So let's say Melucha is Edelkeit. He's not Edel anymore. And even though he's not Edel, how is he going to come back to the Malchus? He's not Edel anymore. Even because his Mahus is Melucha. The Kesher to Melucha is not based on the fact that his Tzir is Behesem to Malchus. Or Dasa der Inyan. Abe Dasa der Inyan, the way the Inyan is beyond Tzir, so from every vantage point it's going to come out. You heard the Minyan, it's finished.
Why does he want him to come back?
That's the part. He wants to. I see that it's not here. This whole derech is that Chatchil the Melech sends him to come back.
I think it's a little later about the support there.
Oh, but the Rebbe brings it before the Magid, no? He wants him to come back to Chatchil. Whatever. We'll go see that. Again, Kaplan. But the whole point of the Melech is that he wants not to detach him. He wants the Kesher Atzmi should be. He wants that the son's connection should be in a much deeper effort. The first shikter avek. Why does he send him away? Kolzman, he's going to be his lifestyle is the Melech's lifestyle. So he said, what is he connected to the Melech? That's his tzir. His tzir is Malchus. Does break the nicht is that his that he has the nekudas Malchus, the etzem Malchus. The etzem Malchus that's his mahus. If it's mahus, it's not dependent on tzir. But that's the primus Inyan. The Inyan itself is not based on tzir. Or that's the Inyan only. The Hertemin is finished.
The Marshal is about a yid or about Teves?
The Marshal is about Teves, but in order to make a yid that goes away far, and he's not interested in Alukus, he's not interested in Bittul, he's not interested in. I'm saying, how do you? So you speak to him on his terms, and from his terms you bring him back. Through his terms you bring him back. As a peasant, a peasant. How did this Tsar manage that through musagim of a peasant bring him back to the Melech? There's royal life and regular life. Each one has advantages, disadvantages. Kovetz. So, Anish what the Melech, I'm saying this Ben Melech, a mensch falt weg as weit, and he wants to live a regular life. He's not interested in Iram Lucha. So if a peasant is not interested in Malchus, you have a Tsar that his dveikus for the Melech or his hakar de Melucha is beyond the tzir of Malchus. So he could through peasant language bring out the Malchus of Melech. If you want to use them, saying it's not the correct point, just to bring out the nekuda that you say, or lighting menorah in different ways. We're not saying there's a way to bring Yiddishkeit even through I don't want to speak stuff that I don't know, but you bring Yiddishkeit through the vushim of Elam Hazah. But even the regular miftzayim basmatut, that person lights a menorah and where people are going for a big massive event. And you're not taking in order to light the menorah. You have to come to shul and to be a minyan ma'ariv and everybody quiet. The way you are in your daldamis, there also you can bring kedusha there. I'm just saying a dugma ba'alma. But there's ways. Yiddishkeit has a certain tzir. The tzir of menorah is a resistant shul. Everybody's wearing hats and jackets, and everybody's this. But it's not. So then someone that was hatish tamid der tzir. So he's nivdal from the Indian. But if the Indian doesn't have a tzir, it's an Indian amiti mitzad atzmei. The mohus is not based on, because that's the reality is that way. It's true beyond reality. It's a true, intrinsically it's true. The mohus itself is true. So he's not based on a mitzvah, and he could be and come out in any form. Because he's beyond the form. What's the nikuda was from this marshal? That's so farana seichel, which there is a seichel that a certain svara, what's the pshat as a regular svara? That's a certain truth that's based, that you say, what is pshat that it could be explained? It's not intrinsically true mitzvah itself. Why you say, this is true because the mitzvah is vice does it. The same way you say, lahavdil, you say, it's a very low ephem, but you say, I really like saying this a lot, that Gashmi is, Nishkin Dovra is a sheker, Gashmi is a sheker. It says, if the table is true, if the stars and the tish, why do you have to have a space? In order for the table to be, every Dovra Gash has to have a makim where it is. If this table contains within itself existence, so why does it need something else to make space for it? It is though. When there's space for him, he needs, in order for him to exist, he needs someone else to accept him. He himself, on his own, doesn't exist. He needs another Metzias to accept him. So really, every Metzias besides for a Davar Atzmi is that way. So every concept, in Bas Bashtet HaEmes concept, that it makes sense, and there's a concept making sense, and this idea fits in, is accepted by certain reality. There's a what's considered true, what's considered false, and this Indian fits into that caliber. What about something that he's beyond Metzias? Before there's a system, and then they say he suits into the system. He's true mitzad himself. Er is a davar amiti, mitzad atzmi is davar amiti. So he's not based on a Metzias. And he's beyond Metzias. So the Hern Azah Emes, Azah Sech, Azah Emes, so through explanation, what is explanation? Explanation means that you find Oisius, you find in Yonim, which they're kalim to that Indian. That means that you find that the system agrees to it. If the system agrees to it, so you're not getting the Amita Se Indian Kameshu, that's not the Seichel Sasa. Then you're getting a Metzias the Indian. So the Hern Azah, the Emes of the Indian Mitzad Atzmi. Someone's going to want to explain what's the Shaykh as the Keshav Avu Ben, that regardless of whatever it is, the father's always going to see the Milas in the Ben. It's always, that's not Nishdas V'Rinyan. There's a connection not based on Milas. Not every, according to Seichel, connection is based on that Aleph and Beis suit each other. They don't have to suit. There's connections that are beyond that. It's different. So Al-Dar said, the Rebbe is saying here, there is a Inyanim of Seichel which have to do, which is a Gedra Gilin. It's part of the system. It can be expressed in the system. And then there's a truth which is beyond the system. So I think the Taich, with the Lashon Fi, the Kireba, Farmachter Inyan. It says Farmachter Inyan. Means there are Inyanim that their Metzias, something else expresses them. In was besteht, the Richtigkeit von der Sach, or that the system accepts it. The system expresses it. Then there's an Inyan, he's beyond the system. He's true. So as from after in you don't have, you're outside of him, so that's already not the Indian. If you're trying to accept him mitzad mitzias and that he should suit with mitzias, nemst nicht der Zachalim. It's like someone's going to say that how are you going to understand the Kesher Avu Ben that the father is so connected that in any situation will see his qualities. You're not leaving the gather of tzir. So that is nicht der Etzem. The Sudan Etzem, which has nothing to do with tzir. It's Farachta in it that Hesbedim and Biyurdim explanations means that you find there's an Inyan Mugdar, an Inyan Prati, which Inyan Prati means that he's accepted in a certain framework. He has a certain seer. And certain Inyanim which bring out this Inyan. There's Hesbedim and Biyurdim which express this Elyon. So then you're saying that there's a Metzias, that's only Shaykhs by an Inyan which has a certain definition. Anything which has a definition means that its existence is based because he's accepted somewhere. Because he suits in something. So he has to have a certain message. What's your point? Where do you? There's a certain say misgeres, was heißt Farad, and he suits in this system of being. Then there's something which so then Isis could explain it. There could be a Metzias which is behesem to the Indian, is a keli to the Indian. What about something was he's higher than Gedera Metzias? Before there's a system. Is emes mitzazir. Das vermacht der Indian. Was vermacht? Him is a faran. Mechutzim and hot finished. Then you can't have a tfisa. You heard the meaning. That's meaning. Now we can go back when they get to the Inyanim Chitzenim Legani, the marshal. When he gets put out there, it's a stark word when he gets this put out there. It's not as he pushed it. So well, people think that it's I don't know. But in the whole, and they say in the Torah, say biblical tales, people know the story of Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. The Baal Shem Tov says here that that's the Sipur Torah. That's happens the Chazah Inyanim Atzmi of Yiddishkeit is there. Inyanim which are higher than Hezber and Tzir. When you go on release time and you tell a kid Pashat Amaisa of Yosef and his brothers, you're touching the core of his soul. It's the Elokus to be Elokus is higher than Tzir. And that is Cheder B'chol Makim. You don't have to tell them when you say the story like Heira or whatever, or explain to them that the concept of Avos Yisrael. You could do that, but I'm saying the story itself. Hatten sich a starket. Kopanim, but the word of Inyan Chitzein Legani. So there's Kama Pratim with over. I'm saying first thing is, you see, this point is an important point. If you say, if you're masbara in, I have a certain concept and I explain it through saying the story. That means that there's a phenomena which could explain the Inyan. It means it's an Inyan mugdar, it has a certain tzir. And a certain, has hezber, a certain mashal could explain that. Could be behesem with the Inyan and explain it. In an Inyan atzmi, it's beyond mitzias. It's kenner zayin that there should be a certain mitzias, it should be, another thing should be behesem to the idea. So there's a concept of Reiv and Miod, there's a phenomenon in this world which could represent that, which could express that. What about something that's beyond expression? Its truth lies within itself. So then, so first thing is, that's not verstehen, but in the Chiluk Tes, the Rebbe brings over there, it's an interessante Zach, but I think that it's a strong point. But the Rebbe brings over there that there is the Achdus of Sukkis, there's the Achdus of Shmini Atzeres, and the Achdus of Simchas Torah. So there's the Achdus of Sukkis is not Tamitis, it's Makiv HaKarev, there it says. In other words, Makiv is Shluda says Chalkos is Makiv. Pnimi there's Pratim, let's put it that way. In Pnimi there's Pratim, because each Keli takes the Inyan according to his tzir. Makiv is beyond Pratim. But from that itself, there's a Makiv which is Laderech Ratzin, which is the Fi'erech HaPratim, and then there's Ratzin Dir Ratzin, or Makiv which is good. So the Rebbe says like this, that the Makiv of Sukkis is that there's Dalet Minim and you bring them all together. So there's still Dalet Minim, but they could be in the same room. Fine. So it's a lower Darga Makiv. Shmini Atzeres is Par Echad. So there's you. So the Nekuda. But that if Nekuda is that it's Nisbatal the Pratim. So Herzach HaNekuda, which is higher than Pratim. So Vert Nisbatal, it's Nirgash, means in other words, within reality there is a Musig of Pratim. And then there ceases to be Pratim. There's a Nekuda of Pshittis beyond this Chalkas. There says Simchas Torah is not Par Echad Eilech. It's an Ander Nekuda. Vubrins is the act of Simchas Torah that Yidden dance together. In the Rikudim, there's no Eschalkus. In learning, so this one, Veis Mer from the Tzveta. In dancing, Heben the Fist, there's Eschalkus. Everybody's the same. But what's the Pshat, the Eschalkus? So, in Mitvaz Beitz Charei is the Achdus in dancing. Seherzach Abdab Se'inin of Pshittis, Einin of higher than Tzir. So there, feet are Eschalkus. Wie brings Charei in dancing, Einin of Achdus, Heder Eschalkus? That's the Rebbe's a dogma for Makkah Be'etzim. But it can become. But one of the fact that it's one nekuda is not. There's only that. This is the way it is. It's not a psatnu of bitul atzir. Medafish ankum tzatnu. This is true for its. This is true. The achdus doesn't need a tzedakah of mitzias. If it is like that, it's the only thing that exists is achdus. There's oneness in all terms. On physical terms, it's also going to be achdus. Because there's only that. So, tanz zusammen, it's not an inyan von achdus. There's no chiluk in there. Meher Tamin is nicht.
So is this chalkus by dancing or not?
There isn't. Well, see the lashon. You know, as a sechir. Someone has a chelik test. What's that? Which chelik is that? What I'm trying to say is, I have to see the lashon there, but I'm trying to say is, if you say there's achdus because there's nisbatel in tzir, there's nisbatel tzir, so then the achdus besteht in them that there is a phase where there's achdus. It's not that the fact that Yidden are one is true within itself. It doesn't need an experience for it to be that way. It is like that, and if it is like that, it is. When dancing is not that there's one mitzvah expressing another mitzvah. The goof of all Yidden are ceased. There's achdus there. So that's the inyan alein. Not that there's a mitzias outside of it which is being expressed by it. I have to see the lashon of the sicha, but design mer. I want to bring out this point. What I have to say is that in a certain way, when something's begashmius, you have the inyan itself. No tzir, that's the point I'm trying to say. You heard the meaning? When you say that something is battle pratim, so it's not only there's a nekudas achdus, there's a mitzias which is in sync with achdus, and there's a certain hafla over there. There's a certain when there's battle pratim verta nekuda of yichud. Then there is sedon arenim. In dancing, there's no ischalkus. There's echad without adding anything to the oneness. There's no inyan which represents oneness. In the concept of rikud is in a shtakin. There's no chilukim. There's just one. There's no one with a certain reichkeit related to the one. There's the inyan itself. That when you find this alien, what I'm saying to say is when you find hesbeda means you find something which expresses the inyan. Then when you find this inyan in chitzayni, it's the inyan itself, not something else. Kazen ukudah. Anyways, hina tanek shel melech yesh gam kasher bnei yechid nimtze b'smichas elav. Al shel shel melech sheyeh leyeser tayin. V'inin zeh nasa adei zeh shel achir sheshalach yisel lemerchakim v'chulu hari hu chezer elav ad shirik sus v'losh. What's the diak on chezer elav? The whole fact that chezer elav ad shirik sus v'losh, that's just a technical thing. Once he got so far, the only way to bring him out, the Rebbe Zaknish does it. The tainug b'shteitin then that is chezer elav through shirik sus v'losh. Means the tainug is that even mitzad a different ksus veloshin is not zurück kommen zum Melech. In dem steht der Teil. And that's the Puri Atayr. Behind the Shtavka, this Abshatel B'Sipurim Gashmim, Mizgale, the Tainug Atzmi, Tainug Poshut, She'en Yesh Tainug Imenu, Chosim Tainug Poshut. That means that Davke in the fact that even mitzad a tzir zar, could be zurück to the Minyan, that reaches the Kesher Atzmi, which is higher than tzir.
Would the Melech's kavanah be this mal if the kid wouldn't forget?
No, then it wouldn't. Of course, that's the Rebbe saying here. The dafke, so that's why there's a lashon. I don't know. It's later in the Maamar.
No, in the Miluos it's here.
The Rebbe says over there that Chatchili sent him. He brought it later here. Huh? No, that was in order to bring him back.
That's right. Over here, it's before the Teres.
Wie sie kommen zukommen zu Jesu Teinig. Darf das herabkommen in der Samen Eifen, darf ich doch nicht das Sipurim. Warum es nicht, kehrt sich nicht der Ben HaMelech LaMelech. Der Melech hat sich kein Ort, mit soll ihm schicken. Aber das der ganze Inne, was man schickt ihm, ist doch das der Ruf, der soll sich zurück umkehren. Und durch was wird es so wird, dann durch Schinnigsus belastet. The point is, the whole Eli of sending him far away is that even from being fully detached, he should come back. Means mitzad mitzias, he's fully detached. Mitzad mitzias. It doesn't make sense. But because the truth of Malchus is beyond Mitzias. Therefore, even when he's far, he comes back. So Inyas doesn't mean it's an Inyan which is beyond expression. This is the Dasi Dezach. Dasi Dezach in a certain way, a Dover Chitzayni, which doesn't express an Ilui, Val Dezach Alin is as it. Dafkin a Dover Chitzayni. Doesn't have a Dover Nesuv.
Why is he sending the regular Shloime
First. In the mashal. Okay, according to the Rebbe's beer, the whole vart is that it should be mitzad him. Yeah, but Shaila is. I'm understanding this prat. No, but I'm saying the Pasha says none of the Sarim had the ability. Not that the Melech thought. Saying the Sarim that came as representatives of the king didn't have the ability to be mashpia. Why didn't they have the ability to be mashpia? I mean, he wanted the son, in the marshal, he sent the son far away. He let the son integrate in a different form of life. He sent people, the people that brought him back weren't able to bring him back. Why weren't they able to bring him back? Because they weren't able to relate the chshivas hamalchus without using tziyurim of malchus. They weren't able to express the Ma'alas HaMelech without using musagim of the world of malchus. Mitzad, if you're looking to stam enjoy yourself, I can't explain to you. I'm saying the Ma'alah of malchus. If you relate, you say if you appreciate royal things, we can talk to you. We only found one tsar, which his yoker of malchus wasn't limited to the tzir of malchus. So that he was able to change it. Not that it doesn't say that the melech was looking to that way. The melech sent sarim. The sarim didn't have the ability to relate to the melech.
Shouldn't he be looking for that tsar?
In the marshal, there's a specific tsar that has the. I'm saying also the Gabi. I don't know exactly the marshal I even tsar name, but in the nimshal upon him, the vart is that's the way he expresses the inyan. There are sarim which represent the melech. There's a Metzias which is Behes and Telekus. I mean, the Eibusher did create a Musik of Metzias. And there's a Metzias which is Behes and Telekus, which is Batal. There's a Metzias which is not Batal Telekus. And it's Takahofchim. And you have this Sar that's not limited that he has to be Dafke. He can be in a way that it's Ofchim. He can be in a way that it's... in the Mashal, you have to bring out that there's Sardim which suit the king, and the kid will not speak to them. That's what expresses the fact that he was the opposite. And then you have this Sar that could come into a different form altogether. The beer that I'm a maggot, I didn't work out the prat in there.
Why, if it's a deeper Indian, there's 3,000 Mishalim express it, you said you're going to get...
Crazy, is that there speaks in Maamar Vayelech? There speaks in Maamar Vayelech, those prat. There's darkest in of students.
I'm saying that it's not what you said earlier from the Alter Rebbe, that he's bringing it down, is he showing that it's...
No, I'm saying a regular musik of a mashal is... No, that's we're saying a different word over here. The regular musik of a mashal is that you find... every mashal has this. In Sikha Vayikra, there brings every mashal has an akud of helim and a akud of gilui. But when a akud of is here, that you find this in something which has no relevance to the Indian. No, in a lavush which has no relevance to the lavush. That's the we can see that part in Vayelech, but I didn't. I mean, I understand sagen weiter when I didn't. I wasn't planning on going further. We can learn weiter. I mean, but that's me. You have to have Daudet Pam and Amra B'nei Levanasme. You're not supposed to talk before you think. What's last? As I state. You can see the Vayelech a second. But I just want to maybe clarify, if we have hot per minute, just clarify one part from before, because I think that it's interessant. But the Rebbe brings before in the Maamar, he brings the mashal, the Friedrich Rebbe, the mashal of the Rav and the Talmud. So the Friedrich Rebbe only brings Makav HaKorev, that is what the Talmud understands. This is what he's going to understand in 40 days, in 40 years. There's not much weiter. The Rebbe adds further. This line, the Friedrich Rebbe doesn't bring. And even these Nyanim, which the Rav does not explain, it's Makav HaRochi. There's Ashpa. There's a pool. And I've then read the Rebbe, the whole Arichis this you need to explain, which Savkos has to explain, that even the Nyani Rav, which is Be'elei Shalei Be'erat to the Talmud, has Ashpa on the Talmud, has a pool. Not that these Nyanim Gufa are expressed. The Talmud isn't the Talmud's Nyanim. The Makif stays the Makif. The Nyanim Shalei Be'erat, bleiben Shalei Be'erat. But they affect. It means having a Shaykhis to the Etzem Harav has Ashpa on the Gilui. The Nachret Rebbe at Zweite Zach. There's a way that these Inyanim could be expressed, but a different way of expression. They could come into reality, but not by the reality suiting them. That there's only them. As it comes in Yanich Chetzenim Legani. Not that there's a Metzias which expresses that. There's Aleph and Beis suits Aleph. Aleph is an Indian which stays Muvdal. But this Indian Muvdal could be in every reality also. Not in a way that there's going to be one Metzias which expresses another Metzias. I was saying in Indian Ella. It's a Farmachta Zach. Bleibt in sich. But the Indian Chitzainik is, the truth is, when you have an Indian Chitzainik, it's only him. They say when they get this, the fact that the Indian Chakos Pesuk is Ametanst, it's not the pshat that Gashmis is not a Keli to Achtos. Gash is not a Keli to Achtos. The Davar Gashmis is Chakos, not a Keli to Achtos. But how is the Achtos also? So it's not that there's one thing a Keli to another thing. The only thing that's there is Achtos. It's not the Yichud is not Yichud without flow. It's not Yichud with a certain expression of an Indian. In the Indian of Likud, everybody's Bashva. Because why is that? Because the Yichud has no tzir. Because Yichud has no tzir, it could be even in something which means that tziyuri shouldn't be Achdus. And still it's going to be there. And it's going to be the Kameshu. You see a Yichud unattached. There's only Achdus. You're saying, and the Achdus of Par Echad, the Yichud brings out a certain lofty idea. going beyond definition, going beyond the schalkus. The achtas of Rikud, not a ashva that brings out the psamaylich, sheish shvasam avay yechod. Sedonar yichud, sedonar ein zachs, l'chatchila nishtakin. In dancing, everybody's the same. It's not a same that brings out a certain ilui, a certain concept. In dancing, there's no differences. Because that's from that darg of yichud where it's emes mitzad itself.
What's the mile of being mamshik? Like,
No, that the mekabel should the mekabel should experience it. The mekabel should a biti for the inyan. I mean, a gila of the inyan.
there's no experience though.
That the emes is deeper than mitzias. That the truth is deeper than mitzias, and deeper than siyur. That's nimshach. Should be nimshach and nirgash in mitzias the etzem which is beyond the mitzias. How is that nirgash? As the herzach that achtas is not based on mitzias. See is it. The truth is. Like Gashmis itself just is. It doesn't have a concept beyond that. It's the thing itself. Yeah, it's